All right, let's jump right in. Today we're diving deep into the world of 13-lined ground squirrels.
Fun.
But you might be thinking, cute stripes.
Right.
But we're not actually focused on those today.
Right.
We're tackling a research paper about their mating competition.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people, when they think about mating competition in mammals, they think of...
Males fighting.
Right, exactly. Big males duking it out.
Head to head.
But it turns out things are way more complex than that.
Yeah, this study really kind of throws a wrench into some common assumptions about how mating competition works.
Yeah.
The researchers in this paper, they set out to answer a pretty simple question on the surface. Does having more males around lead to more intense competition for mates?
Yeah, I mean, it seems logical, right? More guys vying for the same limited resources.
Exactly.
You'd think things are going to get heated.
Right, more competition.
But the findings of this study are anything big T straightforward.
Yeah, definitely not straightforward. What's really fascinating is that simply reducing the number of males in the study didn't actually decrease the amount of fighting or sperm competition.
Well, hold on. So you're telling me that fewer males didn't lead to less competition?
Nope, not necessarily. It really challenges that idea that male density is the main driver of competition.
That's super surprising.
Yeah.
So what I ask going on here, if it's not just about how many males are around, what other factors are shaping these squirrels' mating strategies?
Well, that's where the research gets really interesting. It turns out that the spatial dynamics of their mating system are crucial.
Okay.
We're talking about how spread out the females are and how much time males spend searching for them.
Okay, so it's not just a free-for-all brawl
Right.
in a confined space like we see with some other species.
Exactly.
These squirrels are having to cover some ground to find potential mates.
Yeah, you got it.
So less direct confrontations and more of a race against time to find those females.
You could say that. And this frantic search might actually lead to less overt conflict between males.
Yeah.
Even if the underlying competition remains fierce, they're simply less likely to cross paths and fight if they're all busy trying to sniff out a potential mate.
So it's like they're trading one challenge for another. Yeah. Instead of battling rivals, they're battling the clock and the vastness of their territory.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
But what about when those males DO find a receptive female?
Yeah.
Surely there's some serious competition then, right?
Absolutely. And this is where things get even more interesting. The researchers took incredibly detailed observations of different types of competition happening. Not just fighting,
Okay.
but also what they call sperm competition.
Wait, hold on. Sperm competition.
Sperm competition.
Right,
So
right.
it's not just about who mates with the female first,
Right.
but also whose sperm ultimately wins the fertilization race.
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah.
They documented all sorts of behaviors. Males chasing each other, interrupting mating attempts,
Oh, wow.
even trying to disrupt already in progress pairings.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a whole other level of competition that goes beyond just physical confrontations.
Wow, it's like a whole soap opera playing out in the squirrel world.
It really is.
So what are the factors that influence how intense those post-mating battles become? Is it just random chance, or are there like strategic elements at play?
That's a great question, and one that this study digs into. They found that the density of females, not just males, had a significant impact on both overt conflict and sperm competition.
Hold on. More females equals more competition.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that make things easier for the males?
Yeah.
More options, less to fight over.
It seems counterintuitive, I know,
Uh-huh.
but it comes down to this concept called the operational sex ratio.
Okay.
It's not just about the overall numbers, but the balance of males and females who are actually available to mate at a given time.
Oh, so it's like that limited edition item that suddenly becomes more desirable.
Yeah.
There are only a few available. Exactly, you got it. When females are scarce, the competition heats up, even if there are fewer males around. Those mating opportunities become more valuable, so males are willing to fight harder and engage in more intense sperm competition to secure them.
That makes sense. High stakes lead to high drama.
Exactly.
But I'm also curious about the timing aspect. We know that females are only receptive for a short window.
Right.
Does that factor into the competition as well?
Absolutely. The study also looked at the effect of what's called estrous synchrony.
Okay.
Basically, how many females are receptive at the same time.
Mhm.
And here's another fascinating twist. Males were more likely to fight over a female if she was the only one in estrus at that moment.
Really? So having all your eggs in one basket, or rather all the receptive females at once, can actually lead to more fights?
It seems that way. However, sperm competition, that battle after mating, wasn't significantly affected by synchrony. It suggests that these different forms of competition might respond differently to population factors,
Right.
adding another layer of complexity.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. So much for those simplistic assumptions about the biggest and strongest always winning.
Right.
It's got a constantly shifting puzzle with all these interacting factors.
Exactly. This study highlights how much more dynamic and nuanced mating competition is than we often imagine. It's not just about brute force. It's about being adaptable, strategic, and responsive to the ever-changing social and ecological landscape.
But before we get even deeper into those strategies, let's take a closer look at the actual behaviors that researchers observed in the field. I'm dying to hear some real-life examples of these squirrel showdowns and the lengths they go to for love,
Okay.
or at least for passing on their genes.
Well, get ready for some dramatic reenactments. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But I can definitely share some of the details that the researchers observed. They saw chases, squabbles, and even some pretty intense physical tussles as those males vied for dominance.
Oh, I bet those fights were even more dramatic when females were scarce, right?
You bet. They actually measured the percentage of time that a male had at least one competitor present during his pursuit of a female, and that percentage was significantly higher when females were in short supply.
Okay, I'm picturing these researchers crouched in the grass, scribbling furiously in their notebooks. Chase initiated, tail flick, mount interrupted. It's like a real-life nature documentary unfolding before their eyes.
It really is, and it's a reminder that even in the seemingly mundane world of ground squirrels, there are dramas and rivalries playing out that are as intense and complex as anything we see in our own lives.
Absolutely.
Oh.
But before we start drawing parallels between squirrel mating strategies and human dating apps,
Okay.
let's shift gears and delve into what this all means. If we were 13-lined ground squirrels faced with these complex dynamics,
Okay.
what would our strategies be?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
One that this study forces us to consider.
Okay, so let's pretend we are 13-lined ground squirrels for a minute.
Okay.
The pressure's on to pass on those genes. Do we go for brute strength? Do we become like the squirrel version of a bodybuilder, buff?
Well, that might be a good approach, in some situations. Like, if females are scarce and those mating opportunities are really contested,
Right.
being able to fight off rivals could give you a real edge.
Yeah, because if there's only one receptive female around, you want to be the one who gets to mate with her,
Exactly.
not, some other squirrel dude.
Right.
But what if females are more abundant?
Yeah.
Would a different approach be more effective then?
Exactly. If females are plentiful, maybe being a really skilled searcher,
Okay.
able to cover a lot of ground and quickly locate those receptive females,
Right.
that becomes the key to success. It's all about adapting your strategy to the specific circumstances that you're facing.
So it's kind of like in the dating world, choosing between being a specialist or a generalist.
Yeah.
Like you can focus on being really good at one thing,
Right.
like fighting or searching, or try to be, decent at both.
That's a great analogy. And it highlights those trade-offs that are involved, in different approaches. If you're a specialist, you might excel in some situations, but struggle in others.
Right.
Being a generalist might make you more adaptable,
Yeah.
but you might not be the best at any one thing.
Okay, so we've got fighting and searching, but let's not forget about sperm competition.
Yeah, of course.
If we're a male squirrel trying to maximize those chances of passing on our genes,
Right.
how do we factor that into our strategy?
That's a crucial question. And one that researchers are still trying to fully understand, really.
Yeah.
This study didn't find a direct link between estrus synchrony,
Okay.
so how many females are receptive at the same time, and the level of sperm competition. But that doesn't mean that there aren't some strategic nuances at play.
So even if multiple females are receptive at the same time,
Right.
that doesn't guarantee less sperm competition.
Right, yeah. It's possible that males can somehow sense whether a female has already mated with other males
Interesting.
and adjust their behavior accordingly.
So maybe if a male detects the scent of another squirrel on a female, he might decide to cut his losses and move on to find a female who hasn't nerded yet.
Exactly. Or maybe there are subtle ways that males try to outcompete each other's sperm that we haven't observed directly. There's still a lot we don't know about the intricate world of sperm competition.
It's fascinating to think about all these hidden levels of strategy and adaptation going on in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate the complexity of nature, even in creatures as seemingly simple as squirrels.
Absolutely. This research reminds us that even seemingly straightforward questions about competition can have surprisingly complex answers.
Right.
It's all about considering the bigger picture, the ecological context, and the interplay of multiple factors.
So if we're keeping score, it seems like adaptability is the name of the game.
Yeah, I think so.
A successful squirrel needs to be able to assess the situation, weigh the options,
Uh-huh.
and choose the best strategy for that particular moment.
Exactly. It's not about finding one perfect strategy and sticking to it.
Right.
It's about being flexible, responsive, and constantly adapting to the ever-changing dynamics of the mating game.
Okay, so we've covered the challenges, the potential strategies, but now I want to really visualize this.
Okay.
What did the researchers actually observe out in the field? Can you paint us a picture of what these squirrel showdowns actually look like in real life?
Okay, so imagine a sunny meadow dotted with burrows.
Okay.
A male squirrel catches a whiff of a receptive female, starts making his move,
All right.
only to have another male suddenly appear,
Ooh.
vying for the same prize.
Okay, the tension is palpable.
Right.
What happens next?
Well, sometimes they engage in these, intense chases,
Okay.
darting through the grass, leaping over obstacles, trying to outmaneuver each other.
Wow.
Other times it's more about posturing and intimidation. They might puff themselves up to appear larger, bare their teeth, or let out these warning squeaks.
So it's not always a full-on brawl.
Right.
Sometimes it's more about psychological warfare.
Exactly. And the researchers observed that the intensity of the conflict often depended on how many other males were around.
Okay.
If a male had been pursuing a female for a while without any interference, and then another male suddenly showed up, things were more likely to escalate.
It's like that feeling when you've been waiting in line for ages and then
Oh.
someone tries to cut in front of you.
Totally.
Tempers flare.
But remember, it's not just about those initial confrontations.
Right.
The competition continues even after a mating has occurred. The researchers documented males trying to disrupt already in progress matings,
Oh, wow.
attempting to pull rivals off females, even chasing them away after the fact.
Wow, it sounds like a never-ending battle. But all this talk about competition makes me wonder, what about cooperation? Do squirrels ever team up to improve their chances of success? Or is it every squirrel for himself out there?
That's an interesting question, and one that researchers have explored in other species.
Yep.
In some cases, males might form alliances to gain access to females, or to defend a territory together. But in the case of 13-lined ground squirrels, there doesn't seem to be much evidence of cooperative behavior when it comes to mating.
So it's a truly solitary pursuit.
It seems that way.
Each male is out there on his own, trying to navigate this complex landscape of competition
Yeah.
to maximize his chances of reproductive success.
Right. And this brings us back to the adaptability we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
A successful male needs to be able to adjust his strategies depending on the circumstances, The density of females, the
Yeah.
level of competition, even the time of day.
So it's not just about being strong or fast or even good at finding females. It's about being a master strategist,
Yes.
constantly analyzing the situation,
Right.
making decisions that maximize your chances of passing on your genes.
Precisely. And I think that's a valuable takeaway for all of us, even if we're not furry little creatures scurrying around looking for mates.
Right.
The ability to assess our environment, weigh different options, and adapt our approach accordingly is crucial for success in any field.
So whether you're a squirrel facing a rival or a human navigating a complex project, being a strategic thinker is key.
Yes.
Okay, I'm officially convinced that squirrels are way more clever than I ever gave them credit for.
Me too. And that's why this research is so fascinating. It
Yeah.
challenges our assumptions
Right.
and reveals the hidden complexities of the natural world.
So we've talked about how complex this squirrel mating competition is,
Yeah.
but I'm still kind of stuck on this idea of sperm competition.
Right.
It's such a weird concept.
It is a bit mind-boggling, isn't it? Even after a male mates,
Right.
the competition's not over.
Exactly.
His sperm still has to outperform any rival sperm that might be present.
It's like a whole other level of competition happening,
Yeah.
but on a microscopic scale.
Oh, right. Exactly.
So it makes you wonder, are there ways that males can actually influence their odds in this sperm showdown?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely evidence from other species that males have evolved all sorts of strategies to increase their chances of fertilization success.
Like what? Do they do some kind of sperm-themed trash talking?
Huh.
Like, My sperm is faster, stronger, better looking.
Maybe not trash talking, but,
Okay.
some species have evolved physiological adaptations.
Okay.
For instance, some males produce larger quantities of sperm,
Oh.
but a sperm that swims faster,
Right.
giving them an advantage.
So it's like an arms race.
Uh-huh.
But instead of weapons, it's all about sperm,
Exactly.
quantity and quality.
And in some cases, males might even engage in behaviors that try to sabotage their rival's sperm.
Sabotage. Like what, do they try to block the exit so other squirrels can't mate?
Well, in some insects, males will actually deposit a substance
Oh, wow.
that plugs up the female's reproductive tract, preventing subsequent matings.
Wow, that's hardcore.
Yeah, pretty intense.
It's like putting a closed for business sign on the whole operation.
Right, exactly.
So bringing it back to our 13-lined ground squirrels,
Okay.
do we have any clues about how they are handling this sperm competition challenge?
That's an area where more research is definitely needed.
Oh,
But, the study does provide some intriguing hints. Remember, the researchers found that males were more likely to fight over a female if she was the only one in estrus at that moment.
yeah, the all eggs in one basket scenario.
Exactly. Well, that suggests that males might be able to assess the likelihood of sperm competition
Okay.
based on how many other receptive females are around.
So if a male encounters a female and knows that she's like the only one in town,
Right.
he might be more willing to fight for her
Uh-huh.
because he knows there's a good chance he'll be the only father
Exactly.
for her offspring.
But if there are lots of other receptive females around, the stakes might not be as high.
Right.
And he might be less inclined to engage in, risky fighting behavior. It's like, why risk getting injured in a brawl when there are plenty of other fish in the sea?
Right. Exactly.
Or rather, squirrels in the meadow.
It all comes down to, weighing the costs and benefits
Yeah.
of different behaviors in that particular context.
Okay, so all this talk about competition and strategy and even sperm sabotage, it's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
But I think it's important to remember that these squirrels aren't consciously plotting and scheming.
Right.
Like, they're not tiny evil geniuses.
No, definitely not. These behaviors are largely driven by instinct and natural selection.
Right.
Over generations, those individuals with traits that increase their reproductive success
Yeah.
are more likely to pass on their genes.
Right.
So those traits become more common in the population.
So it's not about, conscious decision-making.
Right.
But rather an evolutionary process that favors those who are best equipped to play the mating game.
It's this amazing dance between genes and environment that has shaped the behaviors we see in these squirrels today. It really makes you appreciate the power of evolution
Yeah.
to shape even the tiniest details
Absolutely.
of an organism's life, from the way it looks to the way it mates.
And that's what makes studying animal behavior so endlessly fascinating.
It does.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion,
Right.
constantly uncovering new levels of complexity and wonder.
So to wrap things up,
Okay.
what are the key takeaways from our deep dive into the world of 13-lined ground squirrel mating?
Well, first, that competition is rarely simple or straightforward.
Okay.
It's often influenced by a complex interplay of factors,
Right.
including the density of males and females, the spatial dynamics of the mating system, and even the timing of female receptivity.
And second, adaptability is key.
Yes.
A successful squirrel needs to be able to assess the situation,
Uh-huh.
weigh the costs and benefits of different behaviors,
Right.
and adjust its strategy accordingly.
Precisely. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to winning the mating game,
Right.
whether you're a squirrel or any other species.
So the next time you see a seemingly unassuming squirrel darting around,
Yeah,
remember that there's a whole lot more going on beneath the surface.
absolutely.
These tiny creatures are masters of adaptation and strategy,
Right.
constantly striving to maximize their chances of passing on their genes to the next generation.
And who knows, maybe we can even learn a thing or two from their strategic prowess.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course, it was fun.
We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of the natural world.